Welcome back to the Youth Sailing Podcast.
Behind closed doors, I'm a fool for your love.
Today, we are very lucky to have Arran Holman joining us. Could you tell us a bit about yourself and your background in sailing?
Hi, my name's Arran Holman. I'm 25 years old. I started sailing at the age of 6. Sailed almost everything there is to sail in junior and youth classes, then moved into the British sailing team when I was 18. I've been on the programme now for 5, going on 6 years. And I do quite a lot of pro sailing and also quite a lot of national classes sailing outside of my 470 and 49er sailing. And yeah, I've been a bit sailing mad for as long as I can remember, to be honest. And yeah, it's been a mad journey, that's for sure.
So what boats are you sailing at the moment?
So I'm currently sailing a 49er in the British squad, and then alongside that, I'm actually debating with the idea this week of doing the Olympic trials in a 470. So the Olympic trials are starting Palma in April. Don't tell anybody about that now, but that might be a bit more common knowledge by the time you boys release this. So yeah, I'm thinking about getting back in the 470 for the trials this spring. And then alongside that, I'm doing quite a lot of 505 sailing this year, a lot of Merlins, Cape 31 series, the Etchells, Worlds and Europeans this year, and the J70 Europeans, which will be in the UK this year. So there's a lot going on.
So, what was your first boat, and where did you start your sailing journey from?
So we're a farming family from Leicestershire, and neither of my parents sailed growing up. So I started sailing in a little boat called a Kingfisher, which is a boat that my dad bought off eBay for about £100, I think. Basically, he was in our local Oxfam one day on the high street and bought this little book, probably had 7 or 8 pages in. It was called How to Sail. I think it's one of those kids' books. I think the pages were made of thick card. And anyway, he read this book and he thought what a marvelous idea it would be to buy a boat and teach himself to sail. We had a little pond on the farm, not much bigger than your bedroom there. And we bought this boat. He taught himself to sail. Then we joined our local sailing club, which is a little club called Hollowell in Northamptonshire. And then we took the boat down there. He taught me to sail. I started crewing when I was about 6 for him. And then I quickly graduated to my first Optimist, which was a little wooden one, which I sailed for my first year of sailing, just on our local pond. Yeah.
How did you develop past that point of sailing?
So while most people were in doing the sort of zone squad stuff and various things like that, I simply stuck to sailing at my local club. There were some really good old boys who were really talented sailors in boats like Wayfarers and Solos. And I would go around just sailing obsessed, training as many hours as I could every time we went sailing, and just learned myself, to be honest. Would watch videos on YouTube of foreign sailers. And I was quite a kinesthetic learner, so I found watching and then doing the easiest way for me to learn. So yeah, and I would just we went at it ourselves. So we go and do local open meetings to start with, and I don't think I did a national event until I was 11 years old. So we did a couple of years of just doing really small open meetings. And just developing through the regatta fleet, and then started winning open meetings in the main fleet. It's kind of my approach.
When you were a junior, when did you really think that you wanted to take sailing up to professional levels?
Oh God, I don't know if I'd ever thought I would make it, but certainly from the age of about 11 or 12, I looked at these guys who were already sort of Olympic sailing. This is when sort of the first generation of Olympic sailors was sort of maturing into being. And I thought, God, what a wonderful life that would be. And what a great way to spend your time. And I from that moment on, I definitely had aspirations. Like you speak to anyone who knew me back then, I was mad for the sport. But in all honesty, for a long time, I probably wouldn't have said, yeah, that I'm going to make it to that point. That probably only came about when I was maybe 15 or 16. But no, for those early years, I was just so passionate about the sport and just enjoying where I was right there, to be honest.
What was your pathway from your first boat to your current boat now?
God, that could take a little while. That could, chaps. I got one of the most complicated routes of probably anyone you'll speak to. God, so the short version is probably, so at junior level, I sailed everything. I think I won the nationals in the Optimist, the Terror, second in the Topper, won the Cadet Nationals. I came second at the Mirror Nationals. So sort of sailed everything. Had a real sort of unorthodox approach, I would say, compared to most people who sort of follow the RWA structure. We kind of thought most of that was nonsense, so we kind of just did our own thing. And yeah, so did those junior classes, and then got to sort of 15 or so, started sailing lasers competitively in Europe, and then 420s and 29ers, trying to do them all sort of as well as we possibly could, and then started really doing a lot more national classes sailing. So hopping in things like Merlin rockets and D0s and Aeros and basically anything I could possibly get my hands on. I'd go out on the weekend and I'd sail IC37s and fast 40s for a lot of years on the Solent and the Etchells. Etchells youth program was a big part of developing my Solent sailing and my where my professional sailing is now. So shout out to David Franks and Dave Bedford for those fantastic opportunities all those years ago. And yeah, it's been a bit of a complicated route. I think it's just come down to not ever saying no to any opportunity and always grasping everything with both hands.
Out of anywhere you've sailed in your career, where's been your favorite place to go?
Favorite place to sail and favorite place to go to are probably two different answers. I think my favorite place that I've ever been was well, I think probably the first Oppie Worlds that I went to when I was 13. I got the chance to go to this little island called Langkawi off the coast of Malaysia. And me and my dad sort of sent my equipment ahead and grabbed a couple of backpacks, and we went a month early and sort of went exploring around Malaysia, sort of thing. And when you're 13, you're doing that with your dad. That's just the best thing ever. I think it was in the new year, the Worlds. We went away. We spent Christmas Day hiking in the rainforest in Malaysia, and just met so many people along the way, like taking trains and buses and the backs of scooters. And yeah, that was a mad trip. And I think it was my first time leaving Europe. So that was a really memorable experience. And it was like this beautiful little island, quite a lot like Halong Bay in Vietnam, sort of lots of steep rocks and dolphins. It was an absolutely beautiful part of the world. So yeah, that was favorite place I'd probably ever been to while sailing. And then my favorite place to sail is also my least favorite place to race. It's got to be Lake Garda. It's one of the most beautiful places in the world, and a fantastic place to go sailing, but a truly awful place to race because it's so boring. So that's a bit of a bittersweet one.
Yeah, we've just been to the top of Worlds this summer, and we didn't get the weather forecast for where we were meant to get.
Was it quite light wind?
Yeah, it was quite light.
The first, from what I heard from
2
everyone
days.
sailing, it was perfect Garda conditions for the first week before, where everyone was training, and then we had storms pretty much every night, and the wind dropped and dropped until the final day where we had about 10 knots.
Lads, I cannot tell you how many times over the years, as a professional sailor, you rock up in some Mediterranean port or something, or some venue around the world, and terrible, and they say, "Oh, it's been fantastic the last 3 weeks," and then you turn up and it's just dreadful. It's a fact of life, I'm afraid, of the game that we play.
During your career, what has been your biggest event, and how did you handle the pressure?
God, I think over the years I've probably not dealt with pressure very well. I've been leading a lot of regattas and managed to come second. So that's probably something that I'm still learning how to do. It's been my biggest event. I don't know the answer to that. I've done a lot of big events over the years. Things like the Optimus Worlds were quite important. Things like the ISAF Worlds. Yeah, I don't know which is my biggest event, but in terms of dealing with pressure, yeah, that's definitely something I'm still learning how to do. And yeah, it's no quick fix, but it's something that I'm figuring out with time.
As a junior, what was your best result in one of your events?
There's a lot of classes. I won 7 or 8 national championships when I was a junior, and couple of European titles. I think the one I'm probably most proud of is I finished second at the Cadet World Championships. We got this cadet, this chap called Charles Ainsworth, who used to own a company called IBI, had just imported from Poland. It was this blue cadet. No one had raced one in the UK before, and he lent it to me to go and race for 6 months. And I just only sailed single-handed boats at that point. Maybe I'd won the odd fever event or something, but nothing with a traditional spinnaker that was really tricky. And I learned to sail this cadet with my little brother, who's not really a sailor, and sort of went hard at it for about 4 or 5 months. Went to the World Championships with a girl called Lucy Offord from down near Waldringfield, and we came second. So I think that was a cool journey and a cool experience. So I'd say that one.
Who would be your biggest rival so far in your whole entire career?
God, my biggest rival. There's been a lot because I've sailed so many classes. So there's a lot of lads you race against over the years, and truly fantastic sailors. But I think probably the one that springs to mind is from back in the day. He's actually my oldest friend, a lad called Martin Wrigley. Sails with Ailey McIntyre in the 470. Hopefully he'll go to the next Olympics. And we raced against we're sort of both from the Midlands, and we'd race against each other every Saturday and Sunday all through the winter. And we had some fierce battles over the years, tooth and nail sort of thing. Yeah, as I say, he's my oldest friend. If I've ever got something really, really serious to talk to, and I need someone to talk to, he's always the first call. And I think it's the same for him. So I'd have to say probably Martin, just because of the amount of history we've got and the relationship we have. We always like to get one over on each other whenever we possibly can.
So we all know everyone needs a training partner when you get to higher levels of sailing, but who, out of everyone you've had as a training partner, who would be your favourite person?
My favourite person as a training partner? God, the lads in the 49er squad have no equal, I'm afraid. So it's got to be James Grummett, Chris Taylor, Ross Hawes, Dan Budden, Nick Robbins, and James Peters and Finn Sterrett. They're a fantastic group of boys, all super talented, all very successful in their own right, sort of thing, but very relaxed environment within the squad. Everyone wants the best for each other, and everyone is sort of is wanting each other to improve, and it's a really sort of confident but relaxed environment, and that's been fantastic. It's been a huge learning experience for me, the sailing that I've done in that boat so far. For
an event, what is the routine you always do?
For me, it's really important to relax. So sort of if I'm going away on a foreign trip or something, I'll often try and go back to our family farm in Leicestershire and do a bit of honest work with my dad. Just do something completely unsailing related. Look after the animals, do some tractor driving, go and lay a fence or something like that. Just because it really clears my head, and I can often find that if I'm spending too much time around boats for too long before an event, I get very tired and can't get the best out of myself. And I always sail my best when I come back after a break. And if I'm not on the farm, I try and go to the hills and go walking as often as I possibly can, because I find it's the best way for me to relax and clear my head. So yeah, one of those two things.
The night before a sailing event, do you have a certain meal that you will always go for?
No, not really. I mean, ideally someone else is cooking. That's always it's always what we look for. You don't want to be doing cooking and doing washing up really the night before racing. But no, ideally some pasta, something to fuel you for the next day. Plenty of meat, plenty of veg, some salad, not too much sugar. You want to keep those insulin levels down, and drinking lots of water with lots of lemon juice and minerals in to try and keep you hydrated and try and get you on the best health you possibly can going into a championship. And probably no alcohol as well. I'd say those are the fundamentals, but no, there's no strict routine in terms of what I eat. I always eat porridge in the morning though when I'm racing, every morning.
That's interesting because Ben Ainsley said he has a Chinese before every single event, and Ben Cornish says he either has a pizza.
That doesn't surprise me about Cornish at all. Cornish will go out and do a round of golf, then have a pizza. That sounds exactly like him. But I mean, Ben's obviously a truly awesome sailor, so maybe that's where I'm going wrong. Maybe I need to start eating a bit more Chinese food, and my results will improve.
Yeah, get that carb load before the event. Make sure you've got that extra kilo. Just keep that.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah.
Do you play any other sports than sailing?
Yeah, so I do a lot of running. I play a bit of hockey, just in the evenings for a local team up near the farm. And I always try and have a kick about with the lads. So play a bit of sort of five-a-side football with my friends whenever we can. A little bit of badminton occasionally, and I swim and cycle quite a lot as part of my training to do my cardio sessions. So I'm sure you've heard the joke. It's not the British sailing team; it's the British cycling team. So we're all out on our bikes whenever we possibly can, messing around. Probably sat at a cafe drinking coffee rather than cycling up hills more than we should, but we do try.
What are your favourite things to do when you're not sailing?
I think it's just to spend time with the people that are important to you. So we have quite a close knit group of mates. Most of them are now living in London. Shout out to Morgan and Will. Hi guys. And yeah, we just try and spend time with each other, go and do a bit of wing foiling. As I say, go to the hills, go do a bit of walking, eat some good food, just spend time with the people that are important to you, and just try and have a nice, relaxed time.
How do your skills from junior sailing transfer into the bigger boats?
I think there's a lot of it. I think like the fundamental grounding you get in all those junior boats are what drives you. I mean, you've as the years go by, it becomes rarer and rarer that you learn something. It's more a case of you're refining, and as I'm finding now in sort of your middle 20s, you get to a point where you're largely relearning things. So you're relearning things that you've forgotten, which is a frustrating place to be, but it's a reality of it. But yeah, certainly that middle stage of your sailing, after you've grasped your racing principles and how to be a really sharp, clever racer, and you move into those boats like cadets and mirrors and 420s. Those fundamental skills that you learn in those boats carry all the way through to everything through Olympic and professional sailing. That's for sure. There's nothing new under the sun. It's quite a simple sport. You just keep learning and keep maturing, and keep learning how to deploy your skills in different ways under different conditions.
While you're sailing the 49er, what's going through your head? Are you thinking about how fast you're going? Is it just kind of natural to you now?
I think not just the 49er, but most boats that you sail, the more you think, the slower you go. So whenever I'm sailing anything, particularly the more high performance stuff, if I'm in a Moth or a Wasp or the 49er, the more you're sort of trying to process things and think about all these variables, the worse job of it all you're doing. I've always found the closer you find to what I've always called flow state. So when you're in a really relaxed state of mind, like trying to keep your heart rate as low as possible, not really thinking about anything, just being nice and decisive and just feeling your way through it. If something feels like a good idea, you just grasp on it and you go for it. And and just trusting your instincts that you've developed over the years is where I enjoy my sailing the most and where I've found the most success.
What are your plans for the future? So are you campaigning for 2024?
Yeah, so I am sort of still campaigning for 2024. My Olympic sailing slightly on the back burner until about June this year. I will be doing the Olympic trials, but no, I'm not full on Olympic campaigning at the moment. Mostly the goals for this year are pro sailing, and I've got a moth on the way for the Moth Worlds, and there's the Wasp Worlds and various other events that I'm trying to do a good job of this year. But certainly, the Olympics is totally where I see my future. So either 24 or 28, trying to represent the UK at one of those games is still my dream. So we'll see where it goes.
Do you think so? You're getting a moth. Does that mean you're gonna change, see if you can go beat Dylan Fletcher? Because I know he's quite a big target.
Yeah, Dylan's a fantastically talented sailor, and one of the most talented in the world right now. Obviously, current 49er gold medalist, and does a little bit of sail GP stuff. And I know he's got ambitions to go America's Cup sailing, and I'm sure he'll realise those ambitions before long. He's been in the moth since. He's been sailing moths since I was an optimist sailor. So he was sailing moths right when they started foiling back in 2008, 2009 time. I remember him turning up with a moth at the Steve Nicholson Trophy in Northamptonshire while I was still an optimist. So I think I've got a bit of catching up to do time-wise with Dylan. But certainly be looking forward to getting on the water with him and Stuart and Giles and Simon Hiscox and all those lads down in Weymouth, the old Portland Moth squad, and putting some good hours in between now and the World Championships in the middle of June. And we'll see what happens. I think I've got a fast boat, and hopefully if I can get enough days on the water, I can put together a reasonable performance at the Worlds.
Thank you so much, Arran, for letting us talk with you and learn more about your journey. Is there any final things you want to add?
Yeah, I'd say for anyone listening, just the fundamental thing I've learned over the years is there's a lot of noise in this sport, and a lot of people will tell you a lot of different things about what's important. And I think that there's a couple of key things that I'd say. I think one is understand why you're doing it. Okay, so be really clear on why you love it, and just enjoy it. Whatever form of sailing it is that you enjoy, or whatever boat it is, or whatever you like, team racing or fleet racing, or you want to be the best and beat everybody, or you just want to go out and enjoy your sailing, just go and do that. Yeah. And if you always do what you're passionate about, you will be successful at whatever that is. Okay. So you've just got to go and trust you. Never do anything you don't enjoy. That would be my takeaway.